Hello. 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 I want to record a message for you to help you get started on the first night. The Spirit Size guys do get a bit quirky at night, but do I blame them? No. If I were forced to watch a bunch of stupid for 12 hours a day and I never got a break of science, I'd probably be a bit stupid myself as well. So remember, these guys hold a special place in the hearts of children and show them respect, right? Okay. Ratings out of 5 stars. How well was that? How good was that intro? Like Puzzle Vision, I think I need a 5-star rating. Anyways, we are off to watch more Spirit Science. In the last part of the video, Jordan told us that life could only form in multiple places at the same time because of land bridges. And that a land bridge named Lymeria existed. That Atlantis was real. That the Nicals spread magic in the form of the Tree of Life across all of Atlantis, drawing in Hebrews from space and Martians from Mars. What was to happen next? Who knows? Well, other than us literally about not us falling down from Christ consciousness and having to frickin' get back up there in time, or else our entire species would go extinct. And we're currently at the 13,000 year limit, so if Jordan's right, I think we're fucked. But at my highest doubts. I got my highest doubts. So, because everything in archaeology tells us that's not the case. Everything in archaeology tells us that what is fact is that, well, humans have been around for millions of years, started civilizations a little while ago, and yeah, if we did have any magical powers, they were most likely the wizards from, the folk tales and whatnot. Just nothing like magical humans that were immortal and everything. And we're gonna find out there's even more stupid. My question is, what happened to the space Jews after they got frickin' after this whole catastrophe happened? I mean, Atlantis was about to sink. So what happened to them? That's what I want to know. So let's take a look.
Performed this experiment on themselves. They received instructions from the highest levels of life and they went on their way. Thoth proceeded with a being named Ra and Aragat, who were previous kings of Atlantis, and began the experiment. To understand what they did, we have to talk about consciousness grids. A planetary grid is an etheric crystalline structure that envelops the planet and holds the
Amazon is overcharging you, but I can show you how to avoid it. Don't spend another dime on Amazon until you watch this first. Watch!
Finally, and this was the shocker, we would only have 13,000 years to return to Christ consciousness. Normally, it takes hundreds of thousands of years for a species to get to Christ consciousness. We had to do it in a fraction of the time. If we didn't, we would not survive. This has never happened before in the universe, ever. Thoth, who was the priest king of Atlantis at the time, learned that they would have to perform this experiment on themselves. They received instructions from the highest levels of life and they went on their way. Thoth proceeded with a being named Ra and Aragat, who were previous kings of Atlantis, and began the experiment. To understand what they did,
they were Egyptian gods. Ra was the god of knowledge. Though if they talked about, if they at all mentioned Anubis, who came from an alternate reality because of a triangle-shaped being, we should probably be concerned. Because if Jordan was correct and that was said, then we should probably be concerned. If anyone got that reference, please let me know.
We have to talk about consciousness grids. A planetary grid is an etheric crystalline structure that envelops the planet and holds the consciousness of any one species of life.
Do you know what crystalline means? Crystalline means made of crystal. As in we wouldn't even be able to leave the fucking Earth. Because, there's a bunch of crystal in the way. We'd be trapped inside this Earth. And the thing would be a constant risk of shattering. Due to all the gravity around it.
This grid does have an electromagnetic component associated with the third dimension, but it also has a component for every dimension as well. These grids are geometric, of course, and science will eventually discover that there is a grid for every species in the world. Each of these grids have their own geometry and are unique. There's not another one like it, just as the species itself are unique. These grids give off light as well, and from space they can be seen as the source of the bluish glow around the Earth.
Oh, you're talking about Rayleigh scattering, you moron! This is well documented, well studied, well experimented with. It's called Rayleigh scattering. Basically, when light has to flow through a lot, I mean a lot of gas, it's gonna get refracted. The long wavelengths get scattered very easily because they're low energy, but the higher energy ones, they are strong enough to withstand all this gas and are able to punch through. Hence, all the sunlight gets filtered down into just blue, thus giving us a bluish glow around the planet. And also, if there was a crystalline structure there, we wouldn't be able to leave the Earth. Did I mention that? Because we wouldn't. We'd be trapped inside the Earth. So how do you expect us to get to the moon if we're trapped inside the Earth? Come on. Think about it, Jordan. I gotta go real quick. It's time for me to do something. Be right back. and the back. Got me an ice cream. Vanilla fudge. Alright. Let's get back to look at the soup. Do I have any concurrent viewers?
What Thoth and friends had to do was create a synthetic Christ consciousness grid, allowing humans to ascend to Christ consciousness in a very short time. But first, let's talk about the science behind the grid. Perhaps you've heard of the 100th monkey experiment. Over a span of 30 years, scientists were researching a species of monkey called Macaca fuscata on an island in Japan. They were providing the monkeys with sweet potatoes by dropping them in the sand. The monkeys liked sweet potatoes, but they didn't like the sand and dirt so much. A few monkey children figured out that they could wash their sweet potatoes, and some of them taught the technique to their parents. Only a few of the adult monkeys did this though. This went on for some time until one day the monkeys who actually knew the technique hit critical mass. And bingo! The technique started spreading faster than it did before. Monkeys started learning it really easily across all of the Japanese islands. Some of them taught the technique to their parents. Only a few of the adult monkeys did this though. This went on for some time until one day the monkeys who actually knew the technique hit critical mass.
What the? You told me they went nuclear? Dear God, it's Oppenheimer all over again, Monkey Edition.
And bingo! The technique started spreading faster than it did before. Monkeys started learning it really easily across all of the Japanese islands nearby as well as on the mainland. They knew that there had to be something that wasn't yet understood about how a species is connected to itself. So what did we do? We tried it on humans. A research team made a picture out of human faces. About 100 faces hidden within a single picture, but at first glance, you could only see about 6 or 7. They did several surveys with a few hundred people in Australia and said, alright, find the faces. Most people could only pick out 6, 7, 8, 9 or so, not many more. After that, the research team went to Britain and aired the picture on a closed cable BBC special that was shown only in England. They showed where all of the faces were, every last one. Half of the research team, which stayed in Australia, did the experiment again with new subjects. And lo and behold, people were just naturally able to see more faces.
Confirmation bias. This is a big fat case of confirmation bias. Of course, I can spot more faces. They literally just told everyone where all the faces were. And we have, the internet. This knowledge can spread very quickly. Now the newspapers and such, they've been only broadcasted in England, but goddamn it, could have been spread everywhere.
After this experiment, they knew that something definitely connects us all, and the field of noetics is learning more about it daily. It's mass consciousness. In Lesson 11, I showed you the 3 levels of consciousness. Each of these levels have their own consciousness grids around the planet, and our second level grid is based on squares and triangles. Many governments of the world, especially the Russian and US governments, were studying our grids back in the 60s and probably earlier. When mapping out the grid on the planet, you find little military bases on many of the nodal points of the grid. There are tons of these bases way out in the middle of nowhere, like on little islands like Guam. This couldn't be a coincidence that these government powers placed their bases right where the little spirals came out of the grid. They were trying to take control of the grid, because if you control consciousness, you control what we think and feel. Of course, there was another organization that had its hand in both of these governments, and still do, and we will discuss them soon enough. This grid is visible through astral projection as well. 13,000 years ago, it began. Thoth, Ra, and Aragat were to create a global complex that was able to build a synthetic Christ consciousness grid over a 13,000-year time period. The first thing they did was to fly to a place which is now called the Giza Plateau, but back then it was known as the land of Chem. It was also a rainforest back then as well, not desert like it is today. First, they created a grid around the planet 4th dimensionally, and then began to construct it in the physical 3rd dimension. They went to the male energetic axis of the Earth and constructed a complex which today is called the Solar Cross. These men were sixth-dimensional beings at that time and were living at a very high level of consciousness, so whatever they thought happened instantly. It was that simple. According to Thoth, he built the Great Pyramid, not the Egyptian king Cheops. Thoth says that it was built 200 years prior to the pole shift and built very quickly. These pyramids were aligned precisely with both Fibonacci and golden mean spirals emanating from out of the solar cross. Interestingly enough, Edgar Cayce also channeled that the pyramids were constructed in this time. The pyramids were also found to be built from the top down. The stones on top were placed first, which has baffled researchers ever since.
What?
Every time more is learned about the pyramids, we move further into dark on understanding how they were formed. If what Thoth says is true, well, that explains everything. From there, Thoth and friends constructed an entire network of temples and...
I need to look it up for myself. Is anything you enjoy to say?
Alright, after only in Australia did these daily, it's mass consciousness grids around the planet, and our second level grid is based on squares and triangles. Probably early. There are tests that these government powers place their control consciousness, these governments, and still 13,000 years ago it began. Thoth, Ra, and Aragat were to create a global complex that was able to build a synthetic Christ consciousness grid over a 13,000 year time period. The first thing they did was to fly to a place which is now called the Giza Plateau, but back then it was known as the land of Chem. It was also a rainforest back then as well, not desert like it is today. First, they created a grid around the planet fourth dimensionally, and then began to construct it in the physical third dimension. They went to the male energetic axis of the Earth and constructed a complex which today is called the Solar Cross. These men were sixth-dimensional beings at that time and were living at a very high level of consciousness, so whatever they thought happened instantly. It was that simple. According to Thoth, he built the Great Pyramid, not the Egyptian king Cheops. Thoth says that it was built 200 years prior to the pole shift and built very quickly. These pyramids were aligned precisely with both Fibonacci and golden mean spirals emanating from out of the solar cross. Interestingly enough, Edgar Cayce also channeled that the pyramids were constructed in this time. The pyramids were also found to be built from the top down. The stones on top were placed first, which has baffled researchers ever since. Every time more is learned...
Were the top stones of the Great Pyramids placed first? Okay, here's something from .gov. According to the caller, mysteries had actually been solved by Joseph's director of the France more than 2 decades ago. Okay, let's take a look at this. Nope, nothing about that. Where the hell did he get that idea? Where the hell did he get that idea?
We need to go upstairs. There's a computer down here. And we also need to get that tub drained. Kind of bad enough.
Okay. Be right there. I'll be right there at 9:30. It's time for me to move.
Now.
Oh, okay.
Turn off the computer and leave it down here. Bad enough.
Okay. Okay. What happened? Well, guys, looks like I gotta go. Be sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell, and let's finish that movie tomorrow, hopefully. Bye. Goodbye. Goodbye. Goodbye.